In the city of New Orleans, when things happen, it happens because of teamwork, both on the federal, state, and local level. And I really appreciate them in good times and in bad times. And this is one of those times. Last Sunday, we had a record-breaking Bayou Classic weekend. We had a Saints game that weekend. It was Thanksgiving when lots of families worked together doing great things. There were hundreds of thousands of people in the city, and it was otherwise a very safe, lovely time. Until 1:30 in the morning when two visitors decided to have a shootout inside of a large crowd on Bourbon Street that took what was an otherwise beautiful time and turned it into a tragedy that will never be forgotten. There was a young man named Demontres Tolliver who lost his life. 9 people had 9 life-threatening injuries, and many more were shaken by this senseless shooting. The gunman showed a complete disregard for everybody else's life, and they did something that has changed families and the city forever. I want to say that the New Orleans Police Department response, the response from State Police, the response from EMS, all of the first responders was spectacular. There were 35 to 40 police officers in and around the area within a block. EMS was in the corner. The response was exactly what you would expect it to be from a first-rate first responder system, especially NOPD and the State Police and EMS. And so I want to thank them for all of the work that night. I also want to make sure that we again thank the emergency personnel that were at the hospitals. I'm told that there were 20 nurses and 10 doctors that took care of the wounded, and they performed exactly as we would expect them to in a difficult circumstances. In order to help the Tolliver family, the Demontres Tolliver Fund has been set up to help the family with funeral expenses and other expenses, and citizens can donate to the Demontres Tolliver Fund at any Gulf Coast bank. Now, I said in the middle of the night, standing with the chief and all of our partners, as I have on unfortunately too many circumstances, that we don't tolerate this kind of behavior in the city of New Orleans. And we promised that we would make finding the perpetrators of this shooting a top priority. And today we are here collectively to announce that we have delivered on that promise. Today, one of the shooting suspects has been arrested. I'm going to let the chief go into more details about that. But last weekend in the French Quarter, the New Orleans Police Department and our partners made 11 arrests for illegal guns on the streets of New Orleans. 2 of those arrests were made immediately following the incident. We deployed all necessary resources, and since the incident, these men and women behind me and their teams have been working around the clock nonstop to make sure that we aggressively found the suspects and we brought them to justice. We have told people that when people make bad decisions, there are going to be bad consequences, and we have delivered on that promise. In the past, we have had incidents, and we made this clear. If you shoot in the city, we're not going to stop until we arrest you and we bring you to justice. In 2014, you may recall, there was a Bourbon Street shooting. Tron Lee was arrested, and just recently, he was sentenced to 60 years in prison. In 2015, there was a Mother's Day shooting. Aiken Scott was arrested and sentenced to life. And of course, all of you covered the Telly Hankton trial not long ago. He was sentenced to life in prison, as was a number of other people that were involved in that reign of terror. So in the city of New Orleans, this team is going to be very aggressive, and we're going to do what is necessary to make sure that public safety remains our #1 priority. We continue to double down on public safety. We continue to find better ways to make the city safe. This year alone, we've increased manpower in the 8th District. We've increased manpower on Bourbon Street. We've established a new and better partnership with the State Police. Colonel, thank you so much. Improved technology for officers to prevent and better respond to incidents, and continue to work really, really hard with our federal partners who are here with us today to make sure that we are safe. But I'm telling you now that all options are on the table to continue to secure this city. We are an economic engine for the region and the state. We mean to make sure that every neighborhood in the city is protected, including the French Quarter. And in order for our people to prosper, we have to be strong and safe. But I think that you all know now that this is just not a New Orleans problem. You have a systemic problem in the country, and particularly throughout the state of Louisiana. Since Sunday's shooting in New Orleans, there have been at least 10 major shooting incidents in the country alone. Baton Rouge, Columbus, Ohio, Memphis, Tennessee, and of course in Louisville, Kentucky. And of course yesterday we saw the horrific killing in Jefferson Parish where former John Curtis and NFL star Joe McKnight lost his life. So this just isn't a Bourbon Street problem, and we're not approaching it as that. This is a systemic problem that requires a robust response, not only in the city of New Orleans, not only in the state, but across the country as well, and particularly here. But I'm telling everybody in the city I'm committed to making sure this gets done. And today I'm meeting with law enforcement and elected officials, business and community members to determine what more we can do to increase the safety that we have on the streets of the city of New Orleans. And I want to continue to encourage anybody in the public that has any information about these crimes and any other crimes to come forward. I think that you will hear that one of the reasons we were able to work so hard in this effort is because we had people that cooperated with us. And Mr. Tolliver, on behalf of all of the people in the city of New Orleans, our thoughts and our prayers are with you and your family. You're going to have a hole in your heart, as you know, for the rest of your life. But we're going to stand with you and your family. We love you, and I'm just very thankful that these guys have gotten to work under these difficult circumstances to try to bring some sense of closure and peace to your family, as hard as it may be. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm going to ask Chief Harrison to come up and to give you some more detailed information about the work that was done with all of the partners standing behind us to bring this shooter to justice. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Special thank you to you, Mr. Tolliver, for being here with us. Certainly the thoughts and prayers of the police department and the community family. And so earlier this week, we made a commitment that we would conduct a thorough investigation into what happened and track down the suspects responsible and certainly hold them accountable for their actions. Our detectives hit the ground running from the start of this incident. We collected and analyzed multiple angles of surveillance video in and around the area. We interviewed victims and witnesses from the scene. And as we gathered additional evidence, we expanded our reach and resources on the ground by partnering with our regional and state and federal partners, including the Lafayette Police Department, Region 2 detectives from Louisiana State Police, the FBI Violent Crime Task Force, and the ATF. Through the course of this investigation, we were able to identify the suspects as two men from the Lafayette area who were in town for the weekend festivities. One of the suspects is believed to be 20-year-old Jordan Clay. We believe that Clay and the remaining suspect knew each other. They had been involved in an ongoing dispute outside of New Orleans, and they met again on Bourbon Street that morning. That encounter turned violent and a shootout followed. Based on the evidence we gathered this week, last night, our detectives obtained a arrest warrant for Jordan Clay for second-degree murder. Clay was detained in Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, where he is currently being held as a fugitive, and of course he will be extradited to New Orleans. We're still working aggressively to identify and locate the second suspect involved, and I urge anyone who has any information about this suspect or the one we have in custody, or any information about the crime itself from Bourbon Street that night, please call NOPD, call one of the agencies standing with me, or of course call Crime Stoppers. We have a lot of work left to be done in this investigation. We will not stop and we will not be deterred. Together, we will continue to work aggressively and relentlessly to bring everyone responsible for this incident to justice. And I said this before and I'll say it again. We believe that neither Clay nor the second suspect had any affiliation with either Southern or Grambling universities, and neither live in New Orleans. So our message is really clear. You cannot commit crime in the city of New Orleans and get away with it. Regardless of who you are and where you live, we will find you, we will arrest you, and you will face serious consequences for the decisions you make. And so I want to thank the members of the Homicide Division, members of the State Police, ATF, FBI, and of course the Lafayette Police Department for their professionalism and hard work around the clock from the beginning of this investigation.
Take questions.
Time to take questions.
Chief, can you tell us a little bit more about how y'all identified Clay as the suspect?
So from the very beginning, without compromising the investigation, we have been working with witnesses and the victims and physical evidence to make sure we can find people responsible for this and bring them to justice. Working with all of our partners that you see here, with State Police at the Fusion Center, with members of other law enforcement agencies, both federal and state, we were able to develop information that led us to the Lafayette area. And from there, we developed information that led us to the suspect, Jordan Clay.
Jim?
What can be said at this point about the weapon that was involved?
We can't say anything about the weapon that was involved at this time. The investigation is still ongoing. We're still processing physical evidence, and we're still working to gather information on yet another subject.
You can't say whether it's been recovered.
We cannot say anything about what has been recovered because that's evidence in a criminal case right now. But what I can tell you is that we have one suspect in custody. We're working as we speak to identify and locate the second suspect.
What do you have to say to concerned residents? You know, we've been seeing all these shootings breaking out. What do you want to tell them to reassure them?
That the New Orleans Police Department and the men and women you see behind us, represented by all the agencies, first of all, we don't give up. We put together a very good, robust plan where we had a number of people there, so the plan worked exactly like it was supposed to work. This was a decision made by those two criminals. In their mind, they made that decision to bring guns from their homes to the French Quarter, and then there they made the decision to use those guns. And so our plan worked exactly as it was supposed to work. We want to reassure the citizens that we will protect them, that we will do everything we can to catch people who commit crimes and hold them accountable, and we will work around the clock if we have to, just as you witnessed this week.
Anybody else?
Does Mr. Tolliver want to make a statement at all?
I just thank the police department. I just thank the police department, the mayor, the city alone. I am not from here. I'm from Mississippi. I just thank them that they got justice for me and my family. And I just want each and every one of y'all to just keep us in your prayers. Most of all me, because I done lost a part of my life. I had triplets, now I don't. I only have 2 sons. And I want them to stay strong and stay strong with me. And my wife and my daughter, I want everybody just to keep us in your prayers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, you guys, thank you.